and hosting a session for us and letting us know all about Just2Easy. So Nikki's going to go over some more advanced features of Just2Easy with us today. So you can find out a bit about coding, blogging, I think was one of the other things, and various other bits and pieces. Jim is recording the session so that if anyone misses out on it or you miss a bit or piece of this, then you'll be able to find it on our YouTube channel afterwards. We'll pop it on there. But no doubt, I think Nikki will go over where you can find other helpful videos and help sheets and things like that from Just2Easy as well. So I will hand you over to Nikki. Nikki, I'll make my apologies now that I'm not able to stay for the whole webinar, but thank you very much, and Jim will be staying on with you. Okay.
All right, thank you, Julia. Right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to school. I hear that you have all had last week off. Most of the schools round by me are off this week, so welcome back. I bet it feels like you haven't been off. I remember it well. So you are here for our fourth session. Is that our fourth session? Our third session.
Third, yeah.
Third, and then we're doing a fourth one next month. I think if I remember rightly. Dear me. So my name's Nikki Kimball. I'm one of the educational consultants here at Just2Easy. So what are we going to do? Today's session is scheduled to finish at 5. Questions are going to be asked as we go along. So Jim is in the background. He will be able to answer some of your questions on the chat, if not all. Anything that he can't ask, we will cover at the end. So not a problem. I will be doing a Q&A session at the end of the training as well. So if you want to ask me anything, you're more than welcome. The session is being recorded and made available, as Julia said, through Aberdeenshire LoveLearning YouTube channel, and I think we might add a link to that on the Just2Easy Teams page as well, if I remember rightly from the previous sessions.
Yeah.
Right, what are we going to look at today's session? So we've covered what is Just2Easy, but we're going to have a little refresher about accessing Just2Easy. Should be familiar by now, but just to jog your memory. And then we're going to have a tools and activities kind of showcase. I'm going to give you a chance to have a go at some things. So I am going to try and slow it down a little bit from last time's session because some of the feedback was that it was a bit quick. But I've still overplanned, so we'll see. We'll see how we get on. One of the first things I'm going to show you is how to add tiles onto your Launchpad, which is a little lesser known trick and actually a very useful teaching tool. We're going to look at JIT, so 2 of the tools that we haven't looked at, which are Mix and Branch. So you can create ebooks in JIT Mix and branching databases. I'm then going to give you an overview of J2 code, because I know that's obviously a big element in the ICT curriculum, the computational thinking and the algorithms. So we'll have a look at all the elements of J2 code. I'm going to look at J2 PDF, which allows you to make existing worksheets that you might have interactive. Then we're going to look at J2 Webby, which is our class blog site, badly named, always gets confused with J2 Bloggy, but that's great for showcasing, so you can push content to be published onto your class blog site. And then we're going to, if we have chance, look at how you can add and share resources in the library, if you so wish. As I said, Q&A session at the end, and then I'm going to signpost you in any direction that you can access further support. Right, so quick refresher. Just2Easy is accessible via any device, anywhere. We have 2 ways of logging in, entirely up to you which one you prefer. We do have our button from the Glow site, so you can log into Glow. We are on the Launchpad. Alternatively, if you did want to, you can go via j2e.com. I haven't listed the website at the top here, silly me. j2e.com, and you do have your own button. So you can click on RM Unify, use your Glow credentials to log in, and that will log you straight in. So whichever you prefer. Right, we're going to delve straight into it. So you can create and share your own tiles. So the reason that you might do this is you might be using a website other than ourselves, I know, shocking, that you might want the students to access really quickly and easily. And you can do that by creating your own tiles. So you can share these tiles with students, you can remove access at any time, and you can also create folders of tiles. So these are great for organising Launchpad. Maybe it's that you're doing a particular theme, you want to create a folder with lots of resources within that and lots of links to different places. Okay, so to do this, I'm going to find, and I should have done this before, but I haven't. Let's go for a BBC bite size games. There we go. So for example, maybe you've got a game that links to a particular focus for your class. So let's have a look at Galaxy Pugs. I mean, that sounds like a great game. Let's go for that. So you would open it up to the website that you want to link to. And then we're going to copy this URL at the top. So I'm just going to right click and I'm going to copy that. And then I'm going to go to my Launchpad. And you'll notice we've got this plus button up here. So I can press that and I'm going to list that as BBC bite size pug game for science, for example. Would help if I could spell that properly. There we go. And then I'm going to paste that URL into this URL box. There we go. And it will usually pre-populate some of this info box. It'll pull that from the website that it's looking at. I personally don't do any of this, but you can tick for age groups. You can change the color. So if this is something that you really like and you really want to start using, you could color code them. So, you know, science games are green or literacy games are red or that sort of thing. So that is a functionality that you could use. And then we're going to hit plus. And that has now added that onto my Launchpad. Now it's important to point out, the same with anything in Just2Easy, if you want your students to access it, you need to share it with them. So that's just added onto my Launchpad at the moment. So to share this, I'm going to hover over that tile and you can see these two buttons appear. So I've got this little one with the little people. I'm just going to zoom in just so you can see. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that button. And then there's the usual share functionality. So we can use this drop down menu and you've got your classes listed. So you can share that with your class. You can share it with multiple classes as well. So I can use that drop down menu. Maybe I'm teaching another class with that particular tool. And there we go. So I've got two classes that can access that now. So just to show you, again, I'm not very organized today. I'm just going to log in as my student just to give you an idea. So here we go. And there we go. There we go. It's there. It's jumped us in a different place, so I couldn't see it. So that means that Lottie now can click on that game and she can access it straight away. So there's no having to Google something, search for it, or even worse, having to type out the URL, which in any year below sort of P6 really is almost painful. So that's a great way of giving your students access to particular websites that you might use regularly at the click of a button. Now you can delete these at any point. You can just click that I button and you've got that delete there. Now, as I said, the other thing that you can do is you can set up folders, and that's done in exactly the same way. Just click that plus, you can click the folder, and we could say, I don't know, games, or educational games. There we go. And I can click plus. Now what I can do is I can drag any of these into this folder, but to do that I have to unlock. So if I unlock these tiles, I can drag these games into that folder and just let go. And that now has a folder. You can also maneuver your tiles around your Launchpad as well by unlocking. So maybe you want JIT right at the top. There we go. So I can move these around so I know where they are quickly and easily. And once you finish maneuvering, you just lock it. And there we go. So that is that folder now. And there are those bite-sized games. Okay. So that is adding a tile and adding a folder. It's a great way of organising your Launchpad. Great way of giving students access to websites at the click of a button. Right, I'm going to talk about JIT Mix now. I love JitMix, and it's probably one of our lesser used tools. And the reason for that, I think, is because people look at it and they don't really know what it does. So JitMix is within the JIT toolkit, so the Just2Easy infant toolkit. I would certainly probably not use this in the beginning classes. I'd probably use this in P3 upwards. Some of your P2s might be able to cope with it with a bit more support. So it allows you to create ebooks. You can choose different page layouts and you can add JIT content. There are accessibility tools built into it, such as text-to-speech and your word lists. You can save those files and you can open those as view only. So these are just a couple of ideas that you could use JIT for. So this is a Gruffalo recount. So the students have created their own Gruffalo front page and added some text. We've got our pages that flip between the pages. We've added in a photo and added some text over top. So that is a write document. And we've got, this is a paint document. So we've added our clip art characters on a photo background and added some text. And we've also added in, losing my voice already, an animation of the mouse meeting the fox and recounting those familiar script lines that the Gruffalo says. And then this one is more of a maths theme. So this is using 3D shapes. This is a paint background. We've added our 3D shapes and then we've added our facts. So, you know, showing that they understand the different facts about 3D shapes. So that's just a couple of ideas for you. So JitMix, as I said, can be found within JIT. Because JIT is 8 tools within the same toolkit. Okay, so we've already looked at paint and write so far. So Mix is here, it's this last one. It's got a lovely sort of grey background to it. And I think the reason it's not particularly well used is because this bit looks very different to the other JIT tools. So what it encourages you to do is to choose a page layout first of all. So you can see there we've got 4 different page layouts. So I've got these 2 here that have text and a tool. This one just has a tool and this one has 4 tools. Now that'll become a bit more clear in a second. So I'm going to go for a front page for my book. Let's do a Halloween book. So there we go. So I'm going to choose this page layout. So I've got the nice red box around it when I click on it. Then I choose the tool that I want to use on that page. So you can see here at the moment I've got a blue box. So at the moment that is a paint page. Now if I click on these arrows, it will change the colour. So this colour correlates to the tab, which is write. So that's a write page. I could have a branch page, animate page, pictogram page, chart page, turtle page, or a paint page. Okay, so you can then use the tool on that page. Okay, so I'm going to stick with my paint page and I'm going to click tick. So now this page has 2 elements to it. So it has the middle bit, which is my painting, and then my text box underneath. So I'm going to start by creating my front page picture. So I can, if I want to, just paint straight onto it. But you remember when I showed you paint in our first session, we can load backgrounds. Now to load a background on this particular paint page, we have to zoom up here to this little asterisk. I'm just going to zoom in just so you can see. It's a little asterisk, so I can click that and that will show me my backgrounds that I can choose from. Or if I've already created a picture in a paint file and I've saved it, I can load that as a background. So this button here is my load, and that's going to show me all of the paint files that I've created. Okay, so you can see I've got some Halloween ones already and some spooky Halloween backgrounds. But I'm just going to use one of our clip art backgrounds. So I'm going to click on my asterisk again and I'm just going to scroll down until I find the Halloween ones. Here we go. And I'm going to click, and that's added that as that background. And then I've got all the usual functionality that I would have with my JIT paint. so I can use all my clip art. So I've got my Halloween clip art here. So let's add in some ghosts, and I can make those smaller. There we go, have those moving around. I can scroll through these. So we've got to add a pumpkin, haven't we? There we go, so add a pumpkin. And there should be a flying witch somewhere. There's hundreds of pumpkins. Let's just make that a bit bigger so I can see. There we go, there she is. And let's have her flying across the screen. I can, of course, use all the painting functionality here. So I've got all my colours that I would have in Paint. I've got my texture tool, of course. And I've also got my colour picker and my colour wheel. Now I'm going to add my header of my ebook into this box. So as soon as I click in this box, that then changes these tools here to my writing tools. So very familiar, same as we have in Write. So I can change my font. I'm going to write Halloween by Miss Kimball. So I've got my header, my title and my author. I can change all the same as with my Write. So I can change my font size, my font, and my colour. So let's go for maybe a spooky. It's got to be orange, hasn't it, really? Now, of course, I've also got my word lists. So this will link to the top word lists. So I can listen to any of these if I want to. So I can use that speech bubble and listen to these words. And if I want to add a word onto the page, I just click on it and that will add that onto that text box. Now, just to point out, if you are using touchscreen devices, that works ever so slightly differently, just because you can't hover over the words. So if you're using a touchscreen device, you know, an iPad or a tablet, you have to press the word once to listen to it and then double tap to add it onto your text box. So this has opened up in the top words, so the high frequency word list. I can use this arrow here and that will take me back to my different word lists. You can add word lists. That is done through J2E5 using the word lists button. So anything that you add into J2E5, here we go. These are my word lists. You can then open those up and use those. So, you know, you can add sentence starters in there. So that's really good. So we can listen to those.
All of a sudden.
So it's great if you're starting to use some sort of ebook, you know, writing, story writing, narrative writing kind of things. So that is worth looking at. And there is a video on how to add word lists on our YouTube channel. I think it's only 2 minutes long as well. So that is the front page for my Halloween book. And then if I want to add another page, I just press this plus button up here. And this time I might add, I don't think I have a Halloween animation. We'll soon find out. I'm going to add an animation onto page 2. So I'm going to go for the pink page. So you can see that's the same as animate. And I'm going to click tick. And that has now added an animation page. So I could create my animations. I could add a background by clicking on the asterisk and getting my witch to fly. I'm going to see if I've got a Halloween animation. So I'm going to click this load button. I do. There we go. So happy Halloween. So let's click this one, see what this one looks like. So this is one I made earlier in Animate and saved as an animation. And that will play. So I can have a look at that. It's a bit slow, so I might speed that up actually. So there we go. You know, it's just what I was doing my afternoons last week whilst it was quiet with all the schools being off. So with each lesson, you could add an additional page. So this is great if you're doing thematic planning. So maybe you're looking at, I don't know, weather. So one week maybe you're doing an animation about weather, maybe one week you're doing a paint, maybe one week you're doing a pictogram about what the weather's been like that month. So each week you can add an additional page. Right, so then to save your mix, you would title it and you would save that there. So that will save. Or it won't save for some reason. Seems to be doing nothing. There we go. It will give you that feedback. So it gives you that lovely sort of turning circle, and it also grays out so your students know that they have saved that particular piece of work. Now, I did say Mix does have a view only mode. So to view an ebook in view only, you then go to either My Files if you created it, Pupil Files if your pupils have created it. And then we hover over that piece of work. And if I go to that green eye, I've got this open in view mode. And there we go. There is our Halloween book. So I can turn the pages and I can play my animation and that will play for me. So there you go. Okay. So that is JIT Mix. Great for creating ebooks, not just for English, lots of different uses for that. Right, I'm going to look at JIT Branch now. So this allows you to create branching databases. So this, I know in the English curriculum, it's our year 4s and our year 6s that look at this. So year 4 in maths, year 6 in science, I do believe. So I would think there'll be something similar in your curriculum. So it allows you to manipulate data, to add it into your branching database, and then to use questions to sort that data. You can also play the database, so it is almost a little bit like a game at the end of it, and you can add additional data if you want to. So again, this is done through JIT. So I'm going to open up JIT again, and Branch is this lovely purple one here. Now you do have the option to choose different backgrounds. Personally, I like the blank background. It's personal preference. I just feel like it streamlines the view, but that's just, I'm an SEND teacher by trade. So that's, I've got my autistic spectrum best practice hat on there with that. But as I said, entirely up to you whether you have a background or not. So now what we need to do is we need to find our data that we want to add into our tree. So you can do that either by opening up the clip art libraries. So I might do a Halloween branching database, just stick with the theme. So I'm going to add a ghost. So as soon as I click on that data, that's going to add that into my tree. I'm going to add a bat. Let's add a pumpkin. And let's add a skeleton with a hat. There we go. Now you do have the option to take photographs straight in, and I'll give you an example of that later, but that is where you would do that. So you can click on that and add a picture if you wanted to. You've also got the option to click here and that will open up your pictures, so in your My Files. So if you've already added it into your My Files, you can add that from there. And you've also got the web search function, so you could look for, I don't know, a vampire, for example. Oh, scary. So you could add a photo in instead. And you have also got words, but I don't know why you would use that. Just to point out, there is a simple mode and an advanced mode. So the difference is the simple mode is just the picture. If I click on advanced, that then offers me the option to add a title and a description. So this is a great way of building this in if you are revisiting it, you know, further up the school. As I said, it's in year 4 and year 6 curriculum here. So if you were revisiting it in year 6, I would then use the advanced mode. And I personally, if I was to use it, I would get the children to start researching facts. So for example, maybe they're classifying animal data. So I'll get them to look for facts, maybe lifespan or what they eat or how much they weigh when they're fully grown, that kind of thing. So it's a great way of building it in with, you know, your digital research skills as well. But for today's demonstration, I'm just going to do the simple. So there we go. I've got 4 pieces of data. I think you can add up to, I want to say 20. I feel like it might be even more. I really need to test that. And then we click sort. So now it's going to prompt us to ask a question. So we're going to use a sorting question. So I'm going to say, can I fly? And then I'm going to drag the ones that it's relevant to on the left, the ones that it doesn't apply to on the right. Now, if you have dragged it to the wrong area, just hover over, use that little recycle button, and that will then that will allow you to then resort it. You can also, if you wanted to extend this activity a little bit, you can get the children to record themselves saying that question. Okay, and then we click OK, and that's going to ask me to do it again. So I'm going to say, I should have thought about this. Am I a mammal? Is it about a mammal? I'm sure Jim's going to chime in with no. For the purpose of today's demonstration, I'm going to say yes, a bat is a mammal. And then we're going to say, do I have bones? Say yes and no. And then we're going to click OK. And there we go. We've got our branching database. So we can play that. So this is what I was saying about sort of having a little bit of a game. So your children could swap their tablets at this point to test each other's branching database. They can click on an item. So we're going to think about a skeleton. So can I fly? Nope. Do I have bones? Yes, lots of them. Is this answer correct? Yes. Now, if it wasn't correct, maybe the child was thinking of something different. They can click no, and they can add a new item, and then they can do that sort of searching function. They've got the access to the clip art libraries there. So there we go. We could add Frankenstein. So we could say, I don't know, am I a monster? I mean, that's kind of subjective, really, isn't it? And there we go. We've added another branch to our tree, so the children can keep going and going and going. And then you would save that in the same way, just title that and click save. Now, the other thing that you can do is you can edit these questions further on. So maybe the question isn't particularly appropriate, so you can click edit, and they can edit that. They can also record those there. And the text-to-speech works in this as well, so they can listen to those questions.
Am I a mammal?
And that will repeat it back to them. Okay. So just a couple of ideas. This is a very basic one. This is just categorizing mini beasts. So great for tying in for those mini beast themes. And this one is one that I have been fully encouraging schools to trial because I'm desperate. I would love to do this with a class if I still had my class. This is a guess who game. Now, I obviously don't have people to use pictures of, but you could get your class to create their own class guess who game using that picture function that I showed you earlier. So they could take pictures of each other. So great for your digital photography skills. They could add those in and then use questions to sort them. So it's a great way of talking about, differences between people, appropriate ways of categorizing people, that kind of thing, and the differences that we have between each other. So yeah, if you manage to do that with a class, we love to see it. So please feel free to, if you post it on socials, tag us in it. We love, especially on Twitter, we love reposting work that people have been doing. So that is branching database. Now, I am going to let you have a little bit of a go in a second. I know that it's been a bit of a chalk and talk so far. So we are going to look at code. You're probably going to hate me because I'm actually going to get you to have a go at logo, which is the hardest one. So I'm going to show you Turtle. I'm going to show you Visual because that is quite similar to Scratch. But logo really stands out on its own. And it can look a little bit scary, but actually once you start using it, it's not so scary. So J2 Code is a great tool for teaching that computational thinking. I'm going to close some of these tabs down. Here we go. Let's leave that. There we go. I like a nice streamlined launchpad. So J2 Code is here, and it's actually a number of different tools within the code. So these are geared towards Turtle's definitely the beginnings of Key Stage 1. Maybe even in your early years, it's great for that exploratory learning. Visual, I would use that sort of Key Stage 1 up to Key Stage 2. Logo, I mean, you could use this for Key Stage 1, and I'll show you how. but I would definitely I would be more inclined to use this with Key Stage 2. You've also got Microbit. Now this doesn't plug into Microbit. This is an online version of Microbit. So maybe you've got Microbits in school. So this can be a nice thing. Maybe you've only got a few Microbits, so you could set up stations where students have a look at the Just2Easy version, and then they transfer the skills onto the in-person version. It's also worth pointing out we do have Hive Hackers. So this is a complete scheme of work, I suppose I would call it, to help you with the teaching of computational thinking. So definitely have a look at that. That is all hosted in the resource library. It has a range of different activities that you can use. It's mostly using visual. I think all of it's using visual actually. So have a look at that if you are, struggling a little bit with teaching coding. That gives you almost step-by-step activities to get the students to do. And we've also got examples. So I'm going to show you JIT-Turtle. Now JIT-Turtle opens the same as all of our other tools in JIT. Prompts you for a template. Now this is slightly different from the other ones in that these are kind of preset games and they increase in complexity. So you start with the big bad wolf, moving on to space, desert adventure, getting more and more complex. Okay, so I'm going to show you, for example, let's have a look at space. Okay, so you've got your sprite preset in a preset space. It has the little buttons around it, so it's got 6 very simple buttons. You've got your pen down, pen up, forwards, backwards, left and right. As with branch, you've got a simple version and an advanced version. So, your simple version, you'd start using that. I suppose you could use it in P1 in that exploratory kind of phase and let them have a go. It's great for directional language and, predicting outcomes. Great to use this alongside BBots, very similar buttons. The advanced, so the simple version, the sprite will move with every click of the button. Okay, so the students can immediately see what happens. The advanced version, they then have to predict where it's going to end up. So it won't move. So they kind of have to guess whether it's going to end up where they think it's going to end up. So if I press play now, that is then going to follow through these algorithms. And there we go. We have failed. So what we can do is we can delete any of these instructions. So I could take that forward away. So forward would bring it back here. And then if we give it a left and then a forwards, that should, fingers crossed, end up where I'm hoping it should. So the purpose with this is that they hit all of the planets and they will get a little flag per planet. And then they have to go back to and land back on the moon. Okay. You can reset, so we can, my mouse is playing up. We can clear all the commands. We can also make that sprite go home, so that back to the beginning. We can also add additional sprites. So that's great for a blank background. Kids can create their own games. Again, another way of sort of extending those skills. And then, as with all of our JIT tools, sorry, my mouse is, I think it needs new batteries. I've ordered a new one. You can retitle that and save that up there. So that is Turtle. Oh, the one other thing that I haven't showed you, you can move these, we can drag and move these algorithms around as well as deleting them. Okay, so that is an option. So I'm going to come out of there. Visual, here we go. Looks very similar to Scratch, works in quite a similar manner as well. It has 3 levels. So if we use this button here, so I'm just going to zoom in here, this little drop down, you've got 3 levels. So, level 1, obviously you would use that with younger students, increasing in complexity. So the difference is it removes some of the functions. So at level 1, we would do things like move forwards, and you can control that. So we could say forever do more move forwards, and we'll see what happens. So once you've created your code, you can hit play, and you could get your students to think, has that worked how I want it to work? No, because it's disappeared. So if we press stop, that will return. You can maneuver any of these bits of code and we can put those in the bin. So you might want to instead, forever do want him to turn around instead. So let's have a look. So there we go. He's just rotating now. Okay. You can move this up to level 3. So there we go. Let's just to show you level 2 as well. So you've got slightly more functions, and that is level 3. We can do things like change the sprite. So you've got your sprite button and your JavaScript button. So the JavaScript is the code. So that's what it looks like. Okay, this is the sort of block coding, and that's the JavaScript. So JavaScript, I would use that at the end of Key Stage 2 potentially, a bit more complex. But we can change our sprite by clicking here, and we can click here, and that can add, we can add a new sprite. So there are lots of sprites to choose from. There's some Halloween ones. So let's add in our Halloween ghost. There we go. We can also add in backgrounds. So to do that, you would need to add the background as another sprite. So at the moment I've got sprite 1, so I can add another sprite. So that's added sprite 2. So I would do that the same as I've just changed my sprite 1. I would click on my sprite, click on the change costume. And then if I scroll down right at the bottom, I do have backgrounds. I don't know, do I have a Halloween background here to choose from? No, I don't. So we'll have to go for Starry Night. There we go. So I've got my spooky ghost. So I can drag him to the starting point. I can also rename the sprites. So if I use this drop down menu, I can rename that as background so I don't get confused. So this is handy if you are creating coding with multiple sprites. So sometimes one of the best things to do is get them to have 2 sprites that then talk to each other using speech bubbles. So that helps then that you know which sprite you're coding. I've taught many lessons where students have spent 20 minutes coding the background and they haven't realized till the end of the lesson. It's quite painful to watch sometimes. So that can help. Okay, so now if I want to code my sprite, so this is my sprite 1, I can go back to my coding here. And I might get rid of these actually. And I might use a control. So I might want, or events actually. So when the space bar is pressed, I want him to move forwards by 100. So let's see what happens. So when I press the play button, now if I press the space bar, he's moved forwards by 100. So there are lots and lots of different options for you. We quite often get the question, oh, I like them moving, but that just kind of jumped from one space to another. So I will point in the direction of the glide to option. So let's remove that. I can pop that in there. And you'll notice when I hover my mouse over the screen, I've got my X and Y axes here. So I might want my ghost to glide to over here. So you can see that says X 159, Y minus 138. So let's have a look. So we're going to add that into the X. So it's 159 and minus 138. Let's see what happens when we press play. I press my space bar and he's glided. He's glided to where we wanted him to. So that's a great way of building in your math skills as well. Okay, so I've talked about that far more than I wanted to. So that is visual. Okay, so have a look at that. There are examples at the top of all of these, and there's logo as well. So this is the one I would like to give you a couple of minutes just to have a trial if you wanted to. It has 3 levels, so if this is really scary for you, just stick with level 1. It's very similar to Turtle in that you can use the direction arrows and move around. Oh, I'm going to have to use my touchpad because it's driving me nuts. And there we go. So that will move very slowly around the screen. Level 2, that then gives us the coding. So this is logo coding. So this is actually the written out version. So you've still got your functionality, you've still got pen color. You can put the pen up, pen down. No, pen down, pen up. You can clear the command, and you can have that go back. So reset back home. And we can play that, see what happens. There we go. Or let's clear that canvas there. In version 3, and this is what puts people off, this is full logo programming language. Okay, so these are just shorthand for forwards, backwards, left, right, pen down, pen up, home, so it resets back to home, clear canvas, pen color, repeat, so that's making your coding more efficient, and procedures. And these are beyond my level now, but you can do things like set the X and the Y axes, set the pen width, hide the turtle, clear the text, all sorts. So that's quite a high level there. But one activity I was going to show you is, and this is something that I would teach with, is I would get them to create regular polygons. So it's a great starting activity. And I can guarantee what they will initially do, sort of say to them, right, I want you to create a square, easiest one. So what they're going to do, they're going to have forwards, left, forwards, left, forwards, left, forwards, left, which obviously will work, but it's not particularly efficient when we come to coding. So that's when you can start to introduce repeats. So I'm just going to delete that. So a repeat button, anything that is in those square brackets will repeat. So if I click that, it's adding my repeat 4. So I can cut this bit of text and paste it into these square brackets. And that now has drawn my square. Okay. So the way that we would teach polygons, and this will sort of work into your angles work for your maths as well, is we want our turtle to rotate 360 degrees. Okay, we want it to come back to where it started, 360 degrees. So this angle here times by this number here should equal 360. So for example, if I want my students to create, I'm just going to clear that canvas. If I want them to create a pentagon, you would ask them, right, how many sides does a pentagon have? 5. Okay, and then you'll say, what's 365? It's 360 divided by 5, which is, I want to say 75. And then you hit play, and that has drawn my polygon. Okay, so then you could challenge them. Okay, I want you to do a hexagon. 6. So 360 divided by 6 is 60. We'll clear our canvas. Press play. There's our hexagon. And you can keep going and keep going. You could challenge them to do slightly irregular shapes for your more able students. So please feel free to have a go at that to open up logo. Just whilst you're having a go, I'm going to show you another potential challenge that you could try. And this really is kind of trial and error at this point, but it's a spirograph game. I'm not even sure if that's a game still. I might be showing my age a little bit, but we used to play spirograph all the time when I was a kid. So for the spirograph, you want the starting point, you want it to turn ever so slightly. So you could add in an additional forward. I think that would work. So let's go forwards 10. Let's see if that works. I'm going to see where it ends up. And this really is trial and error. And the other thing I'm going to have is I'm going to add in a clear canvas at the top. So I'm going to add that so I don't have to keep clearing that canvas. So let's see where our turtle ends up now. And then I'm going to add in another rotation slightly. So I'm going to say let's left 10. And this really is trial and error for you and your students. Right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that repeat. And I'm going to make that repeat 100. And let's see. There we go. There is my spirograph. So obviously that's a very small one. But you can get them to start playing around with these instructions and seeing how that changes the outcome of that particular activity. Okay, so just to show you on here, this is a completely different spirograph. So for this, I've got a repeat. I've also set the XY axes and I've changed the color and I've repeated it. Okay, and that can change that completely and how that activity looks. So you could do it with your less able students, you know, just creating those polygons, and with your more able students, creating simple spirographs, and with your very able students, there's always one or two, you could really challenge them to create a spirograph. You could even get them to create one spirograph, pen up, come up here, and then start that spirograph again. Okay, so there's lots of ways of extending your students through this particular activity, lots of links into your maths curriculum, and lots of opportunity for computational thinking, problem solving, logical reasoning, debugging. It's got it all. So don't let the interface put you off. It's not as scary as it looks, I promise. Okay, we do have a lot of videos in the help desk actually about how to create lots of games using Logo. So have a look at those. Okay, I've got 12 minutes left. So this is a particularly useful activity. So if you haven't used J2PDF, it allows you to add in PDFs and to make them interactive for your students. Okay. So excuse the Christmas link here, but it's inching closer as we speak. So I just thought I would show you how you can do this. As a teacher, I'm sure you've got hundreds of PDFs that traditionally you would print off, the students would complete, and you would stick in a book. So this is a digital version of this. So this may well save you money on printing costs, if nothing else. So to do this, I'm going to open up J2PDF off my Launchpad, which is here. Okay. And then I'm going to drag in my PDF now. Where is my desktop gone? Home. Where is my desktop? There it is. Maybe it wasn't in my desktop then, maybe it's in my documents. My computer is playing up. Right, let me find in my downloads, there's got to be a winter crossword. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag that PDF onto that Dropbox, and that is going to stitch that winter crossword onto that page for me. Okay. So what it's done is it's effectively added that PDF as a locked background in J2E5. So you have all the functionality of J2E5 that we looked at in the first session. You can also, you can add things like pictures. You could add word lists. We can add sounds. So for example, let's go up here. We can go to record sound and I can record. Can you complete this winter crossword? Read the clues and then figure out the word and add it into the relevant boxes. There we go. So I've got some instructions. So I can add that sound instruction to the page so my students know what they have to do. I can also add some additional text. So I could write that. Can you complete a crossword? There we go. I've got lovely Christmas writing as well. I've been creating Christmas resources all afternoon. So I might change that text font. Let's go for Lexend. Always a good one. Okay. Let's put that at the top, I can add a word list. So word lists are added up here. So the big W, and then you have got the option to click new. I've already got a winter word list actually, so I'm going to click that. But if I want my students to access these word lists, I have to share it with them. Okay, so I can click on this little blue icon here and go to share. So this should look familiar now. So I can use this drop down and I can share that with my class. Now maybe I'm going to share this document with my whole class, but I know that only my literacy group 1 need that additional support. So we looked at setting up teaching classes last session. So if you did miss the last session, there is a video on YouTube about how to set up teaching classes. So these are smaller groups of students. So I could just share that particular word list with my literacy group 1. There we go. So now if I click on that word list, that will add to the bottom of that particular file. Okay, and that has all the text to speech, so I can listen to these.
Flurry, blizzard,
and that will help them with some of these clues potentially. And they can click on any of it. So if I click my cursor here and click scarf, that will write it for me. Okay. So yeah, so that is your word list. So that is J2 PDF. So now for my students to access this, I would need to share it, save it. So I'm going to save that as my winter crossword. I can't type today. Word. I'm going to crossword 2 because I know that I already made one. That is saved. Again, as I said earlier, that is saved into my files. So if I want my students to access it, I either have to share it with them through my files, or what's nice about J2 PDF and J2E5 is I do actually have this save function. So I can share that with my students. So let's use that drop down menu and share that with my class. So there we go. So my students then, so I'm going to go to my student account. They can access that through the shared files area. They go to list files. There's that winter crossword. It will open up in view mode, but they can click edit. And there we go. Because Lottie is in my literacy group 1, she gets that word list at the bottom. If she wasn't in literacy group 1, she wouldn't see that word list at all. Okay, so you can scaffold the support for students that need it, but the students that don't need it won't see it. Okay, and Lottie can click here, so across she has snow, and there we go, and then she can save that, and a copy will save into her My Files, and I as a teacher can see that in pupil files. Okay, so that's a great way of making those existing worksheets that you're probably using all the time digitally compatible. Okay. Right, last little thing before I finish. You have a class blog you may or may not be aware of. So this is called J2 Webby. As I said, it's badly named. We are in the process of rebranding it and renaming it because we do have J2 Bloggy, which is all about website creation, but J2 Webby is all about the class blogs. So whoever named them should, well, whoever named them doesn't work for us anymore, so it says it all. So this offers you an opportunity to publish content and for your pupils to publish content to the class blog. Now this is visible through the parent portal. It's a great way of showcasing work, gives your students an extended audience for their writing. So it just means that, you know, other people other than you and them can see their work. So it's a really nice motivator. Some schools love it, some schools don't. If you don't like it, you just don't have to publish anything and it will stay kind of a blank site essentially. So just to show you, if I do it from my pupil account, okay, so for example, Lottie's got a fantastic piece of writing here. She can push this for publication. So you'll notice this little globe button here, this will appear in all of our tools. So you and your students can push that publish button. Now, if a student pushes that button, they do get this notification that it has to be moderated by a teacher. Okay, so that kind of stays in the moderate area. So I'm back in my teacher account. So that stays in the moderate area until a teacher authorizes it to be published onto J2Webby. So that moderate area is, there we go. I couldn't see it for a second, is here. Okay, can you see the moderate button? So if I open that, I can see I've got one post waiting and I can see which class. Every teacher will be able to authorize these. Okay, so it's not just the class teacher. So I can click on that class 1 and there we go. There's Lottie's piece of work. I can hover over it. I can preview it so I can have a look, make sure that it's, not sure why that's not working. It should. So we'll pretend that that works. You should be able to preview it. If you don't approve it, you can click that bin. So that will just remove that submission to the blog site. It doesn't bin the whole file, it just removes that submission. If you do like it, you can click publish and that will publish onto your class blog. So the class blog can be found here. So if you go into J2Webby, it will land on the home page. And if you hover over blogs, all of your classes should be listed. Now, the blogs are generated when a pupil pushes content. So if you're looking at this right now and you're saying, my class isn't there, it just means that you need to grab a student, not literally, but just get them to push something up for publication. And that will then generate that class blog. So if I look at class 1, I don't know why that showed us an error code, but there we go. There's that writing that we've just published from Lottie. So you can view that post. I have no idea why that's not working. How strange. If it was an animation, it would play. If it had any sound in it, that would play. You can see the student that have pushed content. You can push content as a teacher as well. And you can also encourage students to leave comments. That's a great way of opening up dialogue and getting students to respond. So you could put a poster, asking questions or giving a particular situation or a story starter, and they write the next bit of the story. So there's lots of uses for this. Okay. So that is J2Webby. And I'm just going to talk about adding resources. I forgot I had this. I thought I was wrapped up then. You can add your own resources in the library. So if you created resources, you're proud of them, you want other teachers to be able to use them. If you open up the library, and if you click My Resources, you have the option to add a resource here. So you can click this. You have to add some content, so activity name, you have to set an age range. You can set multiple age ranges, multiple subjects if you wanted to, and instructions for the student. You have to add student attachments. So you could add photo, a video, a link, or file, or any combination of these. You can add multiple. So for example, if I wanted to add in that winter crossword that I've just created, or that happy Halloween mixed document, that will add as attachments. You can add teacher notes, so maybe that explains a bit more for other teachers what your idea was behind that. It might be that you want to add an extension activity. You can write anything in there, and you can add a teacher attachments. So that might be an answer sheet for the crossword, for example, or a video on how to create something. And then you can tag it and hit save. And then once you've saved it, you then will have a publish button that you hit publish, and we authorize whether that's published or not. So feel free to share anything that you create. Just a word of warning, because we are getting this a lot at the moment. Please do not add resources from other sites like Twinkle. We won't be able to publish them to the wider community because they are restricted by copyright. Okay, but we would love to have any resources that you have created to share with other teachers. I'm almost done, I promise. Just to highlight again, our YouTube channel, we've got loads of different videos, loads of content for you to watch. As I said, We've got the webinars that we're doing at the moment. There's the live lessons are there. They're designed for you to follow along. We did one on the SMART rules last week, so you're more than welcome to have a look at that. And the tips and tricks. So there's things like adding your own spellings, adding sound to J2E5. There's adding word lists is in there as well. So have a look at that. And then our contact details. So if you want to ask us any questions, edteam@j2e.com. We're pretty responsive. We try and get back to you as soon as we can. We're on Facebook and X, formerly known as Twitter. So those are our details. And also that is Just2Easy TV is our YouTube name. So I'm sorry, I've run over by 2 minutes, but has anybody got any questions, or have there been any questions that haven't been able to be answered?
No questions in the chat, Nikki, but that was excellent as usual. I did put bats are mammals because you did have that correct. But, no questions, but feel free to ask any questions, folks. Just to let you know, I'll stop recording now, but that will be recording will be available in all the usual places. In the stop recording in a couple of days, and I think